to order. It's February 26, 2020, 7:01 PM. The first thing we'll do is stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first item on the agenda tonight is the approval of the consent agenda. Would someone like to make the motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It carries. Our first, or letter C, our third item tonight. Oops. So Elizabeth, do I have to change anything, since I didn't mention this? We just approved it.
Yep, and as long as the motion, it said so moved, so I think it's fine, because it's only 4 and 6 that you're approving.
All right, thank you. Our first presentation tonight will be Sheriff First from the Anoka County Sheriff's Office and crew. Why don't you guys come up, introduce yourself, please, to everybody?
You know, now I see what you're talking about. Yeah, 3 was removed. I see on your amended agenda, it's not off there, but it should be off.
Well, I'm Commander Brian First from the Anoka County Sheriff's Office, Commander of the Criminal Investigation Division, and for, I can't remember how many years now, probably 8 or 9, the
Yeah.
liaison to the city of Columbus. And the sheriff sends his regrets. Unfortunately, he's under the weather today. The bug or whatever is going around has hit his family pretty tough, so he hasn't been in the office for over a week now. So he was hoping to come tonight, so he sends his regrets. And so I'll speak on his behalf of, we're happy to be able to be providing your law enforcement services and continue to strive to as the sheriff says, strive for excellence. And we have not a lot of big changes this year as far as services or things that we do, but continue to have do the same thing. I know there's some excitement a few weeks ago right around this building. Happened good
Election
timing
day.
on election day, so we had burglar suspects that were in the area and fled on foot and created a little chaos right about the time you had election going on. But the deputies, with utilizing some of the tools at our resources, were able to apprehend the suspects in that case, and nobody hurt, and utilize the UAS or the drone as well as a K-9 team. And so that was a success story on that. And as you can see from that response, that even when your deputy hours are not here, you'll see plenty of squads, and you'll get lots of law enforcement service. So with that, I'll introduce your deputies. They're not necessarily new faces to Columbus. Both have spent time as contract cars in the past. Deputy Dan Dewey, and I'll let him do his bio, and then Deputy Yantos. So who kind of grew up here as well. Elizabeth nurtured him as a CSO, and once he got a deputy, and now he's been here a couple of years. So I'll let them give a little bit more detailed information about themselves.
Nice to meet you guys. Nice to see you. Deputy Dewey, I've been here almost 5 years now. I spent 2017 as contract car when Linwood and Columbus used to split, and that was the last year of that, so I have worked out here before. I grew up in Anoka County. I graduated high school in 2008 from Anoka, and went off to the military, spent 4 years in the Air Force, spent a couple deployments overseas, came back, Went to Alex Tech, graduated there in 2014. Spent a little time at Hennepin County, Sherburne County, and then started here in 2015. And been a few places, Ham Lake, Andover, here, countywide, courts, done a few different things. I'm also a CSU deputy, which means just like forensic stuff that our CSU detectives don't want to come out for, meaning small stuff like stolen vehicles, I can process those. Burglaries, probably not a first-degree burglary, but a second degree or less, anything like that, so they don't have to come out and waste resources on that, I can do that. Also going to be snowmobile ATV certified, a few other things, so been here 5 years and look forward to be out here.
Hi, good to see you. I'm Deputy Chris Yantos. I've been with the Sheriff's Office since 2008. For the first 6 years I was here, I was a community service officer. 3 of those years were your community service officer here in Columbus. After that, I spent 2 years in our jail division where I was a field training officer. And then in 2016, I started out here. Last year, I was your Columbus deputy as well. Like Deputy Dewey, I also have military experience going on my 13th year in the Air Force. Funny enough, we do the exact same job, security forces, law enforcement and base defense aspect of the Air Force. And looking forward to another year out here serving you guys.
Yes. Very good. Oh, smile. We can sing happy birthday, baby.
There's some stuff over there.
So, anybody have questions? I do have a question. All right. You guys are on duty in Columbus, 2:30 to 2:30, correct?
Is it 2 to 2?
2:30 to 2:30.
2:30 to 2:30, 7 days a week,
Correct.
correct? Yep. So another question I would ask is, how is it, everything's the same as it has been? Better, it's worse? I mean, incident-wise, crime-wise?
I guess I can talk a little bit about that. Well, as you know, since 9203 closed, a lot of that stuff has gone down a little bit, but there is a couple more houses that we've been focusing on that have been drawn just as much attention, if not more, as 9203. So there's a couple, one on Zodiac and one just north of Potomac and Broadway. So we've been watching those pretty hard. Running Aces, always gonna be running aces. They generate a lot of calls, same as Holiday. Get a lot of stolen vehicles and just a lot of warrants and stuff like that coming out of those places, fights. As far as calls, just I guess just normal. Columbus seems like it has a lot of burglaries just because it's on 35, I believe.
Yep.
So easy to get out and get it wherever else they wanted to go. So it just seems like Linwood and Columbus both have those issues, but I guess for call wise, it's been pretty steady, about the same as I've seen in the past. Maybe a little bit less just because of 9203 is gone.
That's good. Okay, anybody else? Can we have any details about the big burglary that was out here? So
Well,
somebody said they ran all the way back to the freeway,
they were close to the freeway,
running through Carlos Avery, or through the,
through
Lamprey Pass.
the
Lamprey.
lake.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was a long enough chase where we needed, we always have on our K-9 team, we were fortunate to have the UAS to help kind of monitor, but then we also have a cover person that goes along with the K-9 team. So the handler can focus on his dog, and then that cover person is, takes care of both of them. And so it was a long enough chase that we had to have a couple of different cover people to trudge through the deep snow. So, it was quite the ordeal. But yeah, so they had tracked them from just down the road here, across through the lake and got them as they were almost approaching, I believe, Holiday again, so. So, yeah, quite the commotion, and it was a good example of a lot of resources coming together and being able to use some of the variety of resources that we do have. Also assistance from some of the neighboring communities that come and assist on a case like that, so. Also, just in the case, I try to monitor the cases also from afar and get the various reports, and it appears kind of consistent with what we've had in the past. Haven't noticed any real trends as far as pockets of where the crimes are occurring, but I'll keep monitoring that. And then my plan is to be attend at minimum quarterly, and I'll get those scheduled so the summer doesn't get away from us like it can. So just be available to give you a little more frequent updates.
Perfect. Anybody else for any questions?
I don't think so.
All right. Thank you, man.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Now we're on to number 8, Planning Commission report.
Is in place? Okay, on February 19th, the Planning Commission had a joint meeting with the Planning Commission and the City Council, and we continued the discussion on the I-35 district's definitions and proposed zoning. Ben opened the discussion, and we reviewed the revised commercial definitions, document number 1. 2 new definitions for retail business were added, business retail and business retail distribution, to address concerns by members that there wasn't enough distinction between retail businesses for end users and retail distribution warehousing businesses. Document number 2 was discussed, the industrial uses definitions, and we did make change regarding storage yards, adding the terms secured and screened to the definitions. Questions were raised about wood chipping industries, and Dean said further research was required to make a decision there. The discussion moved to revised proposed zoning district permitted uses for community commercial, C1, and high-density residential mixed-use, MU1, and we approved those. We then discussed the permitted uses for medium-density residential mixed-use district, MU2. Dean suggested the district would be 90% residential, so most businesses could be added through text amendments. Elizabeth suggested some of the permitted uses should be left in so the city administration can make a determination concerning an application when it is presented at the desk. Several commissioners and council members agreed that that suggestion was more desirable than text amendments. The general business B1 zoning district permitted uses was discussed a little bit. The district is designed as a transition zone between commercial and light industrial uses, and several were discussed. Perhaps they would also be suitable for light industrial. The light industrial district was discussed with some eliminations, so a revised proposed permitted use list would be prepared. A new general industrial L2 district was proposed for the Triangle property. Many commissioners and council do not want to separate the district for that site. We talked about that this evening. The city code on page 7A-57, section 7A, 783, number D, allows asphalt/concrete facilities in light industrial by text amendments. Both are considered heavy industry in all communities except Columbus. Members feel that neither should be in a light industrial district, so the asphalt plant should be relabeled non-conforming, although we did talk about that tonight too. Thank you very much. And the concrete facility should be removed from the light industrial district CUP option. And that's as quickly as I could cover everything that we covered. Any questions?
Anybody?
Nope.
Well, we were mostly there. And we agree with everything you said.
Yeah. Well, we did get a lot of great information from you, Bill, tonight. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Barb. All right, public open forum. Anyone like to come up and speak?
Hello again.
Hello.
Chris King, 18339 Tulane Street. I want to talk about John's Black Dirt. And what I want to talk about is, I know when they were finished with their 5-year IUP, there was supposed to be a final inspection done, and I believe the mitigation, I think that's the right word, was supposed to be done, and then the authority having jurisdiction of that was supposed to inspect it. And I would like to go on the record, because I don't believe anything was finally done to follow up on that process. And I would like it done. And I would like a report back to the community that it's all been done and they've done what they were supposed to do. Now, I know they can't do it right now with the winter, but spring is coming, and I know our engineer probably has a busy schedule, so we want to make sure everybody gets on the page, and I just
Now that
would like it
Elizabeth is
followed
back.
through.
I got locked out.
Oh,
And then I didn't have my cell phone. And then I didn't have my keys. And they said, does my key work? I'm like, no.
Couldn't they jimmy the lock for you?
I was like, do I knock? Do I?
Elizabeth,
Will they
Chris
answer?
has a couple of questions for us regarding John's Black Dirt.
Oh, yeah.
yes, and we've talked about this and that. I would like confirmation that the final stages of their permit for what they were supposed to do and with the mitigation and everything else has been finalized, and that the city has followed through to make sure that what was requested is done.
Okay.
So I figure if I ask now, by spring, maybe we'll get it on the books.
Yep. And I don't know, but we'll address it, and we'll come up with a plan. Because I do know that there was 3 years after it ended, they had so much time to do mitigation and such. So we'll follow up to make sure that the file is closed. And now that I have a Ben,
We'll be good.
it'll be good.
Okay, perfect.
It'll be
Thank
done
you.
before you know it.
Does Leon do that?
I said it'll be done before you know it.
Oh, who does that?
It's either I know that Dennis, our previous city engineer, has done some inspections, but I think in this particular case, it would be Tim Olson that would look at this, because it's a wetland mitigation plan that needed to be put in place, and there's a reclamation plan, so I think, and Kevin is more than welcome to go through, but I think the environmental specialist would better be able to read the plan and then tell us if everything has been, is in compliance.
Just so the council is aware, Tim Olson is a water resource engineer on our staff, and he's part of our team, and he's a wetland specialist. So I'm not familiar with the project, but if it's a wetland-associated project, Tim would be the person that would be most suited to review that, so.
All right, so check back. Everybody promised we'll get it done. So, number 10, engineer report. Kevin?
Do you want me to take this first one?
First thing we have is the.
I can take the first one. The first one is, before you, you have a letter from Matt Ellington. He's with TKDA. He is the engineer that, or the project engineer that oversaw the project for the SCADA and Ziegler project. This is the fifth and final payment, that project. I did check with Jim. For the most part, it is complete. Was a few minor computer program glitches that needed to be addressed. My understanding is they have been addressed, and that the project now will be closed.
So what we need is a motion?
A motion to approve the final payment in the amount of $3,141, I think it is.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Huh. And now the North Zurich Street Survey.
I'm gonna look at Bill first and just wondering how much this kind of is associated with the closed session item, so how much?
It's
can
not
we-
any longer. So I can give a quick update, and then that
Okay.
would be a good segue to your update.
Okay.
So we do have a purchase agreement for the Zurich Street right-of-way, and one of the due diligence items is, two of the items are survey and soil borings. So that's been discussed in closed session, but what happens is, once it's signed, then it's a public matter.
Okay.
There you go.
So I can go further. Okay, very good. So in order to proceed with the potential improvements to extending Zurich Street, we do need to get on the site to perform a topographic survey. We also need to perform soil borings. Another item is with the buildings that are on the property. Should a street go through there, those buildings would need to be demolished. And to do that, they do need to have an environmental inspection to determine if there's any asbestos or loose lead paint that needs to be addressed before that process. So there would also have to be an inspection of the buildings as well. Also, in discussions with Ryan Contracting, I believe it is, who's going to be doing the building for Viking Industrial. We had a discussion with them last week. Is their intent to be able to issue a certificate of occupancy to the owner by October 23rd. That being said, if we were to provide a street for them to access upon completion of the building, we would have to, with some acceleration, get a contract out for bids for street construction and also modification of the signal to accommodate a fourth leg to that signal. And so basically what I have in total here is a budget to do all of those things and issue bids for construction. Whether you want to authorize all those things tonight or just authorize the preliminary work for the surveys, I guess I'll leave that to your discretion, but I'm just informing you that in order to do all these things and to provide street access, if that's the way the council wishes to proceed, we'd have to move things along. But in any event, the total for design of those items would be $46,900. And I should also state that our estimate to extend the full street is just over $500,000, and that's a very rough estimate. We would not look at constructing the full length of the street, but only that far enough in order to provide access to Viking Industrial, which would be about half the length of that particular piece of property. So we would not be looking at that full cost at this time, probably about somewhere in the half, about 50% of that cost to get them access and a street and a signal. But we would want to do a full design at this point for the whole street so that we know that whenever that street is extended, everything fits together like it's supposed to, and we know what we're doing on the north half of that property with the street. And also, we would have a construction component when it would go to construction. So all told, if you were to authorize all engineering fees at this point to take it from this point forward to completed project, it'd be a total of $68,900 hourly not to exceed.
So Kevin, earlier today in the workshop, we talked briefly about the overall project, but I'll just do a brief summary. Between last meeting and this meeting, the engineers in Anoka County had an opportunity to meet with Viking Industrial. And Viking Industrial is at a point now where they have construction plans and they needed to move forward. And they needed to move forward with a plan that they felt that they were comfortable with. And they wanted to have some input from the city because they knew that we were talking about acquiring the property next to them. So at this point, so there's a lot that happened between the last meeting and this meeting in design features and the possibility of constructing the road to meet their construction schedule. So in order to meet their construction schedule, it will accelerate constructing half the road. The flip side to that is if we didn't construct the road, then they would have to construct a right turn lane, and they would also have to construct or reconstruct the driveway to the northerly two properties, which is a $10,000 price tag. And so what we talked about last week was, should we really put all those funds into a construction cost for the permanent road rather than doing all these temporary improvements? And Anoka County was on the phone, and some of us were on the phone, some were in person, so in this conversation. And so Anoka County offered to give them a temporary entrance for the construction because they knew that the city couldn't meet their timetable. And so we realized during those discussions that there was a possibility that we could meet the construction schedule, and if Viking was willing to make a contribution towards the road, it might be the best way for a win for everyone in order to move forward the project. So in this particular case, I realize that the council hasn't talked about moving forward with the construction, but the reason why we were talking about it tonight, earlier in the workshop, I wanted to tell you that there were some things and events that happened in the last 2 weeks to foster maybe an accelerated schedule, which we did, but we're short on time because they informed us that they want to be in by October 23rd. And in order to do that, everyone has to kind of work with them. So Anoka County said that they would work with them with the temporary entrance, and I shared with you the site plan earlier. That was that gray area, and we've had the opportunity to talk with one adjacent property owner who indicated that, yes, he would be on board if there was an alternate driveway location for him. So with that, I don't know if you want further discussion or you have questions for us. As Kevin outlined, we don't have a large window because we have to publicly bid this road. So there isn't another opportunity. Had the developer been able to build the road for us, if it was in his development, we'd have a very different conversation here. But in this particular case, the city is acquiring the land, so it has to be a city project, and it has to be publicly bid. And so that's the window that we're trying to close in on, not to mention there's a design component to it.
So the money that Viking is putting up, is that going to be enough to be the difference between having to rush a project and possibly having the bids come in a lot higher? I understood that on other projects we've had, if you get your bidding process done in December or January or whatever, you have a better chance of getting, a better deal.
And we've seen that when we go out for larger projects and we go out early, we tend to get good bids, and that historically has been the way it's happened. Last year, when Hornsby Street was bid, it was late in the season because we were on the back tails of the bridge, and the project couldn't start till later because we needed the bridge to be at a certain point. It turned out yes, we got great bids. It was a local contractor. They had the work. And so it worked out well for us. So you never know. So it may be that we might go out for bids and they're way too high. And we say that we'll build it in the spring. We could probably still do that. And Anoka County did say that they would allow the temporary entrance, you know what I mean, for up to a year. So it's not that we don't have options. What Anoka County said was, though, it's temporary. In other words, the county would have to give them some assurance that we were going to build the road at that point, because Viking wouldn't have built the right turn lane. You know, they wouldn't do a certain number of things in order to make improvements. So there had to be a commitment on the city's end that we were actually going to follow through with the project.
And one advantage of having the development agreement address the road construction is we don't have to go through Chapter 429 hearings, so that will compress the schedule by probably 60 days.
Yeah, yes.
So we can go right to feasibility and bidding.
And addressing the subject of bids, the advantage that we would have with this particular project is it's not a large project, and we could basically set our completion date to be such that it's timely with their planned certificate of occupancy, so we could set it for the end of October. With a small project like that, many contractors are often looking for work to fill out their season, late work. And since this is a smaller project, it could be a convenient project that some contractor could fit into their schedule and would give us good bids on. I've seen that frequently. The other issue that we'll have to deal with is components for traffic signals are notoriously backlogged. They can take months for delivery, and so we might have to have a contingency plan whereas we have to operate the signal with some temporary traffic control measures until all those components are in and installed. That's something I'll have to address with our traffic engineers. They're more adept at, you know, temporary measures that we would have to install should that happen. But that would be the
That
one.
would also be more money, right?
What's that?
That would also be more money to put something in temporarily?
I don't think it would be anything major. We might be just talking, you know, some stop signs and some other minor measures. So, but it may not be a fully operational signal by the end of October. That's a possibility, is all I'm saying, so.
So would anyone like to make the motion? Or how much are we?
If you were to authorize this all the way through construction, which it would be a figure of $68,900. If you only want to authorize design at this time, it would be $22,000 less than that, or $46,900. If you're not sure if this is going to go to construction, you could just authorize that first phase for now, and we could come back after we get bids and realize that we do have a good project moving forward. We could authorize the construction component at that time, so.
And by breaking it into two pieces, it doesn't hinder anything? It's not slowing it down?
No,
Terribly?
no, we would just come back at the time of awarding bids and ask for authorization for the construction component. So if you just want to authorize the initial $46,900, that gets us going to get this project into the system and out for bids potentially if we continue to move forward, so.
So,
And the companion to that would be that I would want to see that the HRA grant then resolution be approved this evening, because in that case, if you authorize that, we would have, I'm being optimistic, if the $50,000 is approved, then we will have the money to pay for the first phase of the project.
so would someone like to make the motion?
So are we making a motion to authorize the site survey and the soil boring? I don't know if that's equal to your 46,000 that you're talking about.
Kevin's asking for a little further than that. I put, I knew it was critical to have the site survey and soil borings done. Kevin wants to take it a little bit further because of the October 23rd occupancy on the building. So he's saying if he doesn't move forward with the design, we're not going to meet, we won't have any chance of meeting that deadline.
So there are two separate items then. One is for the preliminary design and the other is for the soil borings and survey.
Altogether, we're looking at
Oh,
46,900.
that was included.
That's the total cost for the, that would include the topographic survey, the pre-demolition inspection, the soil boring investigation, a demolition contract, and a street and signal design. And that would be total 46,900.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the site survey and soil boring, pre-demolition inspection, preliminary design work. Is that including everything?
Yes.
For a total of up to $46,900 for North Zurich Street project. Excuse me.
Second.
He said second.
Second.
A little frog in your
I
throat.
got in there. I got it out the time.
Any more discussion on the topic? Anybody? If not, I'll call for a vote.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
All right.
Okay,
Must have been them sandwiches I ate.
must have been.
Anything else, Kevin?
Nothing from me.
Now, we'll have the attorney report, number 11.
So, Mr. Mayor and Council, I mentioned the signed purchase agreement for the Zurich Street right-of-way, which obviously allows all this to go forward because the city will have control of the right-of-way. The timing of that is to close after May 1st because that's when their tenant will vacate the site. We've made it clear that the tenant or the owner needs to remove all the vehicles and debris on the property. The city will be in charge of, through the demolition contract, of removing the buildings. And so that should proceed, nicely because they have an agreement with the tenant to vacate. The thing I wanted to point out, in addition, with that purchase agreement, we also negotiated a right of entry for Viking to come on the property and remove the house that straddles both of those properties. So it's the one that's closest to the roadway on both sides of the property line. So we did that because it benefits all three parties. It benefits Viking as they prepare to develop their site. It benefits the current owner because they get rid of a blighted building at no cost to the current owner of that Zurich Street right-of-way. And then, of course, it benefits the city because we have one less demolition to do. So we feel like that was a good result of that purchase agreement negotiation, and we should be able to deliver that to Viking this week so they can schedule their demolition.
Progress.
Yep, that's what I have.
All right.
So on the building removal, on the engineer's estimate, it said 30,000, that's just for the one building?
I'm sorry?
On the engineer's estimate we got, there's a building removal charge of $30,000. Is that one property?
That's for all of the buildings that are on the north part of the M&M Endeavors, which is the Zurich Street property. So there's the White House, which straddles both properties.
Yep,
That's going to be covered by Viking.
okay.
And then there's the house and a couple of outbuildings that's to the north of that.
So that's the 30,000 for that?
Exactly.
Yep.
City council members. Denny?
Nothing.
Janet?
Just a couple of things. In your packet, there's a short summary from Sunrise Water Management Organization. There's sort of mini annual report. It's just an informational piece, just so you know what they have been up to for the last year. We will be, actually, I think Elizabeth has received the budget from them for 2021, so we'll probably be seeing that in the next couple of weeks to look at. I think we have until, is it May to approve it, Shelley? We have a long time.
I think it's, it was pretty far out that I
Yeah,
recall.
yeah, so if there's any questions, we can go over that. I attended the One Watershed, One Plan policy meeting on Monday. This is the meeting that they were doing some final work on the overall plan, including the definition of what the organizational structure would be. If you remember, there was some question about liability to the city as well as to me as a member of this committee. Should they organize as a joint power collaborative or a joint powers entity? We got some advice from the League of Minnesota City attorneys on this, so that really helped clarify kind of how that all works. Bottom line is that there really is no liability to the city or to me, as long as the liability policy that Sunrise has covers board members. And I just saw an email from Jamie, and it sounds like it does. But we're going to get a copy of that policy just to make sure that it does meet all the requirements so that we're in the free and clear on that. So what will happen is they will be sending out the plan on March 2nd to all of us on the policy committee to review. We have till the end of the month. And then it will be going out to the various constituencies to review, and there'll be a 60-day review. So at that point, Sunrise will get it, as well as I think the cities under the JPA will get it, and then we would have the opportunity to make comments back on that. So that is moving forward. And then I think the last thing, and Shelley, maybe you can comment on this too, is our Fall Fest meeting. We had that last week, the first meeting of our Fall Fest committee. So this is probably going to be the last weekend in September. We are actually talking about whether or not we would like to try to coordinate our Fall Fest with Running Aces Freedom Fest. And so we're setting up a meeting with Running Aces to talk about that. And then I think then we can move forward to finalize the plan and the date and stuff from that point on. But we have a series of meetings that Lori has set up over the next few months so that we can kind of get Fall Fest organized for next fall.
We had really good brainstorming session as far as adding to the things that we already are accomplishing at Fall Fest. And, we're exploring all the things that maybe make it a little bit bigger, better, or more in tune with community, so.
I have a couple of things. Yesterday, we had the first rental of the Columbus Community Center / Senior Center. So that went well. We opened the doors, we had the rental, and we locked them up. So that was nice. Also, yesterday, Janet and I delivered the new liquor license for the new hotel at Running Aces. And picked up the other one, exchanged that, so that's all kosher and done. And also, they mentioned that on March 11th, Wednesday, March 11th, at 11 o'clock is the ribbon cutting ceremony for the new hotel. So everyone is welcome to come and cut the ribbon. And it should be, and then luncheon after that. And a few of us have been through on little tours, and it's getting nearly finished. It's very, very nice looking. Anything else I'm forgetting? Seniors?
You're hearing tomorrow?
Oh, yeah, and last night they had the lights all,
Lights are on, I've heard, yeah.
all the dancing lights on. And you could see it from your house? No. Oh.
I'm sure our part of Preserve can see it.
Yeah, I didn't ask anyone how much it shows up.
You said you could really see it.
Very bright. I was expecting the sign. I wasn't exactly expecting those columns of light. It's bright. Yeah.
So, and also the sign on top was 10-foot letters or 8-foot letters,
I think they're 8.
and they're none too big.
Yeah.
It doesn't look oversized,
No,
so that's a good part of it.
Yeah, I expected it to look a lot bigger. They look like they fit the building just fine. I thought it would be like, when they first talked about it, I thought it would be really huge looking.
Well, even the B on Bear Home, I think it's 8 feet. I think that's, it's a really big number, but when you look at it in the freeway, you're not overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, that looks so disproportionate to the building.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I don't think it's bad at all. Jessica, Public Information Coordinator's report.
No report tonight.
City Administrator's report.
I have one thing on the agenda, and that is the HRA grant resolution that we talked about earlier, in that it talks about the criteria and/or facts about the project, and then with it, I have a few exhibits. I'm going to ask Kevin to do a few more exhibits. I'll write up a narrative, and should we want to go forward with that, then we would need to approve that resolution this evening so that I can get it on the agenda for their HRA board.
So would someone like to make that motion, please?
The resolution number is 20-03.
08?
3.
03.
Yep.
So I'll move to approve Resolution 20-03, approving the submittal for the HRA grant in the amount of $50,000 for the construction of North Zurich Street.
All those, or is there a second? All those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries. And now,
And Mr. Mayor, before you announce the closed meeting, if you'd give the public announcements, and then we won't
we
reopen
don't
the
have to
meeting.
reopen it? All right, the
Yeah.
public announcements are City Council workshop on March 25th from 4 to 6 PM. Planning Commission meeting, March 4th, 2020 at 7 PM. And the calendar is on the back page, page 7.
And my understanding, Mr. Mayor, is that you are going to do a joint meeting for the next meeting between the council and the planning commission?
All right,
Yes.
That was my understanding from the
Correct.
workshop.
so do we need a,
That's on the 25th?
And on March 4th. I just want to clarify that that's what,
yes, I'm sorry. And what time are we starting? 4?
at 7.
It's going to be the, in.
So we're
place-
just joining them,
Yes.
Yes, you're just joining them.
all right?
Point.
So, that's that. So now we can close this portion of the meeting, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Is there a motion?
Read the disclaimer.
Oops. This will be a closed meeting under Minnesota statute, section 13D.05, subdivision 3C, to consider offers or counteroffers for the purchase of property for the purpose of selling land held for sale. All right?
Yep. I think you got